Listen carefully, because what's happening here is not just a story of betrayal, it's a story of human nature at its rawest, a lesson on integrity, resilience, and the inevitable consequences that follow when people choose to act from malice rather than principle. You faced it all, the whispers behind your back, the carefully plotted schemes, the people who thought that by sabotaging you, they could dim your light, take your place, or make themselves feel larger than they are. They believed that your fall would be their triumph. They didn't just miscalculate, they completely misunderstood who you are. And that's where the beauty of this moment lies. They are in deep pain, and they are not just sad. They are haunted by the very thing they sought to destroy. You see, when a person attempts to sabotage someone who is grounded, focused, and morally anchored, the universe has a way of reflecting that malice back to its source. They look at the results, they look at your resilience, and they feel the sharp sting of regret, shame, and the gnawing realization that their actions were futile. Every lie, every manipulation, every attempt to undermine you only magnified your strength. And now this wicked couple, the architects of deceit, are out, exposed for all to see. Their veil of sophistication, their calculated charm, their attempts to present themselves as trustworthy, they've collapsed, leaving them vulnerable, weak, and visibly undone. It is critical to understand that this is not simply karma. It is a reflection of moral reality. People who operate through sabotage, deceit, and manipulation are living on borrowed time. They can try to create confusion, to instill fear, to manipulate perception, but they cannot alter the truth. The truth has a way of asserting itself with relentless clarity. And what you have done in your perseverance, in your unwillingness to compromise your integrity, is make the truth undeniable. You did not have to scream. You did not have to expose them. You simply continued your journey with steadfast purpose. And now the exposure is automatic, the revelation inevitable. This is not a victory you earned through malice, cunning, or revenge. No, this is a victory born of discipline, of character, of a refusal to allow toxicity to dictate your life. You didn't have to fight them in the ways they expected. You didn't need to match their cruelty with cruelty. Instead, you maintained your clarity, your vision, and your ethical center. And the consequence is profoundly satisfying. They are suffering, not because you acted out of vengeance, but because reality itself is uncompromising. The universe does not favor deception. It favors truth, and you are aligned with that truth. There is also a profound psychological lesson here. Those who seek to sabotage others often do so from a place of insecurity, from a desperate attempt to assert control over what they cannot understand. Their pain is not just the result of your survival, it is the reflection of their own internal chaos. They are confronted with their inadequacy, their moral failure, and their inability to create success without tearing someone else down. This is why exposure is so psychologically powerful. The shame they feel is not arbitrary. It is their conscience, once dormant, finally recognizing the magnitude of their misdeeds. And you, standing upright, composed and unbroken, become the mirror in which they must face themselves. You must not underestimate the power of this moment. The world is watching, and human beings instinctively recognize integrity when they see it. People who have witnessed the scheming, the sabotage, the calculated attacks now see the reality, the truth that you are unshakable, that your character is intact, that their attempts to harm you have failed spectacularly. They are not simply exposed, they are discredited, diminished, and held accountable in the court of public perception and moral judgment. That court is far more potent than any tribunal you could have imagined. But let this be a lesson that goes beyond triumph. The pain your counterpart is experiencing, the humiliation of the wicked couple being revealed, is not something to revel in. It is a reminder of what it means to act with integrity, of what it means to build strength that cannot be sabotaged, of what it means to navigate life with a clear moral compass. You have shown through your persistence that the right path is not the easiest path, but it is the one that sustains you, empowers you, and ultimately allows the world to see the truth. Now the question becomes, what do you do with this victory? You rise further than before without bitterness, without obsession over their downfall. You use the clarity you have earned to elevate yourself, to build, to create, to act with purpose and direction. You do not allow the exposure of their malice to corrupt your own path. You let their shame be theirs, while your growth, your achievements, and your ethical consistency become your monument. Remember this: people who attempt to sabotage others are always playing with fire. They think they can manipulate outcomes, but in doing so, they expose themselves to forces far beyond their control: the force of reality, the force of truth, and the force of ethical consequence. And now, having witnessed your perseverance, having watched your unwavering adherence to principle, they are forced to confront what they cannot undo. In the end, the narrative is clear. They tried to harm you and they failed. They plotted against you and they are revealed. They underestimated you and they are in deep pain. And you are stronger, wiser, and unshakably aligned with what is right. This is not just a personal victory. It is a moral vindication, a demonstration of what happens when integrity is prioritized over malice, and a powerful lesson in the dynamics of human behavior. So stand tall and take this moment in fully. Let the exposure of the wicked couple be a testament, not to your cruelty, but to your resilience. Let the pain of your counterpart be a silent acknowledgement of the truth you embody. Let the world witness what happens when someone refuses to bow to deceit and sabotage. You have endured, you have thrived, and now the universe itself has made its judgment clear. Your victory is not measured in their pain. It is measured in your unbroken spirit, in your ability to rise above treachery, and in the knowledge that the path of integrity always carries the ultimate reward: clarity, freedom, and undeniable strength. They are exposed, you are elevated, and nothing, no matter how cunning or wicked, can change that. Your moment is here. Stand unwavering, unshaken, and remember that the most profound justice is the one delivered by the course of life itself, aligned with truth, character, and principle. When people try to sabotage you, they often believe they're operating with a kind of cleverness that no one else can detect. They convince themselves that their manipulation is subtle, that their lies are airtight, and that the truth is something they can bend at will. But this belief is rooted in arrogance, not intelligence, because truth isn't something you can outrun. You can delay it, you can distort it, but you cannot escape it. It has a way of rising back to the surface, sometimes slowly, sometimes explosively, but always inevitably. And that's exactly what happened here. Their sabotage collapsed under its own weight because it was built on foundations that were weak from the very beginning. Deception requires constant maintenance. It demands energy, attention, precision, and a relentless effort to keep every piece of the facade in place. People who sabotage others rarely understand this. They think a single lie or a single manipulative move will be enough to tilt the scales. But once they start down that road, they find themselves trapped in a system of their own making. Every step requires another lie, another story, another cover-up. They start layering falsehood over falsehood until the structure becomes too heavy for them to manage. Eventually, the cracks form, and as soon as there's one crack, the whole thing begins to crumble. Your part in this was simpler and far more powerful. You didn't need to counter every rumor or clarify every attack. You didn't waste your energy trying to match their deception with explanations. Instead, you kept living in a way that remained consistent with who you are. That consistency is what made the truth undeniable. When your actions, character, and behavior stay aligned, people notice. They compare what they see from you to what they've been told about you, and eventually the reality becomes impossible to ignore. That's how sabotage collapses. It cannot compete with consistency. People who try to destroy others forget that reputation isn't built on gossip. It's built on patterns. And your pattern was strong. It held steady while theirs unraveled. Their sabotage didn't just fail, it exposed them. In trying to tear you down, they revealed their own insecurity. They showed people how deeply threatened they were by your presence, your work, or your character. And when people see that kind of desperation, they start asking questions. Why would someone go to such lengths to ruin someone else? Why would they invest so much energy in creating chaos? Those questions always lead back to the same truth. Only the weak rely on sabotage. The collapse of their plan was not a dramatic explosion. It was slower, more humiliating, because it happened through them losing control of their own narrative. They tried to script a story where you were small, flawed, or undeserving, but reality kept presenting the opposite. And with every moment that contradicted their plot, their credibility eroded. A time comes when people no longer believe the saboteur, not because they are caught in a single lie, but because their entire personality begins to look unreliable. When someone shows you that they're willing to deceive once, you start to wonder how many times they've done it before. Their reputation collapses under suspicion long before you ever need to say a word. There's also a psychological law at play. When people sabotage others, they often underestimate how much their own anxiety will betray them. They start acting strangely. They become defensive. They speak too much or too aggressively. They try to control how others see them because they know deep down that what they're doing is wrong. Their conscience may be faint, but it's still there, and guilt makes people sloppy. They contradict themselves, they slip up, they reveal more than they intended. Eventually, their behavior becomes so inconsistent that even those close to them begin to sense something off. You didn't need to fight them. That's the part that stings them the most. They wanted a battle. They wanted a reaction. They wanted chaos, because chaos is where manipulators thrive, but you didn't give it to them. You stayed grounded, focused, and rooted in your own purpose. That kind of silence is powerful. It forces the universe to do the revealing for you. The more you stayed aligned with yourself, the more their sabotage lost its hold. People started seeing through them, not because you pointed anything out, but because their own behavior betrayed them. This is why truth outlasts manipulation. It doesn't rush, it doesn't argue, it doesn't need theatrics. It simply waits, steady and unshaken, while lies exhaust themselves. Sabotage always collapses because it demands so much energy to maintain, while truth requires none. And when one side is burning energy at a frantic rate and the other side is simply standing still, we already know how the ending will look. The truth doesn't need help. It needs only time. Their downfall became a consequence of their choices. They tried to rewrite reality, and reality snapped back. They tried to craft an illusion, and the illusion dissolved. They tried to bury your name, but in doing so, they buried their own. That's the irony of sabotage. The trap always ends up catching the one who set it. They didn't just fail to take you down, they took themselves down in the process. And now when people look at you, they see someone who didn't need to lie, manipulate, or harm anyone to rise. When they look at the saboteurs, they see people who crumbled under the weight of their own deceit. That contrast is powerful. It defines you as trustworthy and exposes them as fragile. The collapse of their plan was not just a victory for you, it was a revelation for everyone watching. You probably don't realize how much strength you showed simply by refusing to sink to their level. People often assume that fighting back requires noise, confrontation, or counterattacks. But there's a much deeper kind of strength, the one that doesn't scream, doesn't scramble, and doesn't panic. It's the strength of staying aligned with who you are while others try to drag you into their chaos. That's the power that revealed their intentions, not because you exposed them, but because your steadiness made their instability impossible to hide. When someone tries to sabotage you, they expect you to react emotionally. They expect you to become defensive, desperate, or aggressive. They expect you to crack under the weight of the lies they've spread or the traps they've set. What they don't expect is silence, composure, focus. That confuses them. It forces them to confront something they didn't anticipate, the possibility that their attacks didn't land the way they hoped. And this is the moment where their control starts to slip.